Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to News Around, the only sanctuary on the internet where we do not merely report the headlines, we dissect the human heart beating furiously beneath them. Tonight, we are gathering to discuss a story that has transcended the boundaries of a simple magazine report and entered the realm of modern tragedy and unspoken romance. It is a story about the masks we wear in public, and the devastating moments when those masks slip, revealing the raw, unpolished truth underneath. We are talking, of course, about the night that changed everything for Barış Baktaş and Yağmur Yüksel. Before we step into the glittering, tension-filled hall of that award ceremony, I need to ask you a favor. If you value storytelling that respects the depth of emotion, please subscribe to our channel right now. And for those who want to be the true patrons of this narrative journey, the join button is waiting for you. Your support allows us to keep digging deeper. Now, take a deep breath, because we are about to unravel a night where silence spoke louder than any acceptance speech. In the grand theater of the entertainment industry, award ceremonies are designed to be spectacles of perfection. They are carefully choreographed ballets of silk, diamonds, and artificial smiles, where every attendee is an actor playing the role of the gracious star. However, beneath this veneer of polished glamour, there exists a volatile undercurrent of real human emotion, a subterranean river of past loves, current feuds, and future anxieties that threatens to burst through the surface at any moment. Last night, amidst the cacophony of applause and the blinding flashes of the paparazzi, that surface cracked in a way that no one expected, turning a standard evening of accolades into a profound psychological drama centered on one man, Barış Baktaş. 4 weeks leading up to this event, and perhaps even months, Barış had engaged in a meticulous campaign of invisibility, a deliberate attempt to fade into the background of an industry that thrives on exposure. He had become a phantom at social gatherings, avoiding the red carpets where reporters hunt for soundbites, offering no enigmatic smiles for the gossip columns, and retreating into a solitude that sparked endless speculation. On the night in question, his arrival was a masterclass in discretion. He slipped through a side entrance usually reserved for staff, clad in a dark coat that seemed designed to absorb the light rather than reflect it, his beard neatly trimmed but unpretentious, his eyes fixed on a neutral middle distance. He chose a seat in the back rows, a strategic vantage point where the stage appeared distant and safe, a place where he could perform the requisite polite applause and then vanish into the night without fanfare. It was a collision of memory and reality, a storm arriving without a weather forecast. He attempted to stand, perhaps to join the ovation, then faltered and tried to sit, then stood again in a chaotic dance of indecision, finally attempting to smooth the lapels of his jacket as if that mundane, mechanical action could somehow reorganize the chaotic emotions spilling over in his chest. He moved towards the aisle, perhaps seeking an escape, but halfway up the corridor, he paused. He leaned heavily against the cool surface of the wall, placing one palm flat against it to ground himself, while the other hand trembled with a ferocity that the high-definition cameras were all too eager to capture. This specific clip, the man leaning against the wall, fighting for breath, has since looped 1,000,000 times across the digital landscape. It shows the breath he couldn't quite steady, the rapid, half-swallowed blinks of a man trying to hold back tears, and the haunting expression of someone wrestling with a ghost in a room full of living people. A few friends, members of that quiet, protective network that exists within the industry, closed in around him, murmuring words of solace and attempting to shield him from the prying lenses, but the moment had already escaped into the wild, becoming public property. To understand the magnitude of this reaction, one must understand the anatomy of the bond that once existed between them. People close to both actors will tell you that their breakup last year was not a singular, explosive event that fractured in the public eye. Rather, it was a slow erosion. It slipped away in the silences between conversations, in text messages that were sent a day too late, in plans that were made and then quietly allowed to drift until they lost their shape entirely. Once upon a time, their romance had been the city's favorite modern fairy tale, a narrative of two rising stars orbiting one another with warmth, wit, and a chemistry that turned ordinary coffee runs into urban legends. But untended feelings can curdle into misunderstandings, and unspoken fears can grow into insurmountable walls. When they finally parted ways, there was no grand scene, no slamming of doors, just a slow, tragic falling away. And yet, as evidenced by Barış's visceral reaction, The bond never truly dissolved, it merely went underground, humming like a background frequency beneath everything they did. So when Yagmar's name was called out in that hall, it wasn't just her victory, it was a complex cocktail of pride and pain for Boris. He had rooted for her even in their silence. He knew the nights she had stayed late on set, the mornings she had started before dawn, the emotional toll the scenes had taken on her. Seeing her walk into the light, in a gown that seemed to float around her, receiving a prize she had earned with every hour the world never saw, was a double-edged sword. It was joy for her, undeniably, but it was also the sharp, agonizing ache of realizing that all these things had slipped beyond their grasp as a couple. We are going to delve into the digital aftermath and the rumors of a secret text message in just a moment. But first, I have a question for you, the viewers who understand the complexity of the human heart. Do you believe that true love ever really disappears, or does it simply change shape and stay with us forever? Can you be happy for an ex-partner's success while still grieving the loss of the relationship? I want to read your deepest thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And please, if this story is touching you, take a second to like this video and share it with a friend who needs to hear it. The internet, as it always does, saw everything. Even though Boris tried to slip away between the award categories, keeping his head down as he navigated towards a side corridor, and even though a loyal friend offered a jacket to throw over his shoulders as a makeshift shield against the world, the cameras were quicker. A fan, positioned on a balcony, captured a close-up on a smartphone. The angle was tilted, the sound distorted, but the raw emotion was as sharp as broken glass. Within minutes, the footage multiplied across platforms. By the time the ceremony ended, social media feeds were thick with fan edits, slow-motion replays set to melancholic music, and captions that turned speculation into a competitive sport. Public opinion fractured into two distinct waves. One camp saw this as undeniable proof that real love leaves permanent fingerprints on the soul, arguing that his reaction was the ultimate testament to his enduring feelings. The other camp urged for privacy, begging the public to let him protect his peace and leave the past where it belongs. But between these two extremes, the comment section pulsed with a collective empathy, a shared frustration, and 1,000 memories that fans had attached to the couple over the years. Backstage, after the cameras cut away to the next segment, the facade had to be maintained. She moved quickly, accepting hugs from peers, posing for a handful of obligatory photos, and then slipping into a quieter corridor where publicists and friends formed a human buffer against the press. Questions rattled the air like gunfire about the performance, about the significance of the award, about her next project, and she answered what she could with poise. But when the topic edged too close to anything personal, her smile thinned, and her manager stepped in to deflect. Later, among a circle of trusted friends in a private room, she reportedly let herself exhale. Sources say she sat with the golden statuette on the table in front of her, fingers tracing its base, her voice low and eyes bright, trying to hold two contradictory truths at once. She had earned this moment of glory, and she had seen him broken by it. Insiders tell us that what erupted in Boris was not a meltdown in the traditional sense, but rather a dam breaking after a long season of drought. A friend who has known him long enough to recognize the difference put it simply: what you saw wasn't weakness, it was everything he never said showing up all at once. The friend described months of restraint, of text messages typed out in the dead of night and then erased before sending, of calls rehearsed and then cancelled, of a man who could deliver complex lines flawlessly on set but went mute when it mattered most in his real life. It is a story familiar to anyone who has loved and lost in the glare of an audience. The world assumes you have moved on because you look perfect in a photo, but the heart hasn't learned the script. Then came the whisper that turned this speculation into a genuine cliffhanger. A rumor began to circulate about a message sent in the private quiet hours after the show. It wasn't a grand gesture, not flowers left at a gate or a sunlit speech, but a simple text message that carried the weight of a year's worth of silence. People who claim to be in the know suggest it was long and unguarded, the kind of message that attempts to build a bridge with honesty rather than charm. An apology was allegedly buried inside it, along with gratitude, and a quiet wish for her peace, regardless of whether he was destined to be a part of it. Did she answer? That part of the story, for now, lives behind locked screens. Some speculate she read it more than once, letting the words sink in. Others imagined she typed a response and waited, typed and waited again. None of us know for sure, and perhaps that uncertainty is kinder than an answer we are not ready to hear. The debates continue to circle the same fundamental questions. Was what we witnessed a testament to a love that never lost its shape, or a warning that the human heart can only carry so much weight before it breaks? Should a person fight for what once was, risking everything for a memory, or guard the ground they have finally found beneath their feet? The only clarity belonged to the work itself, the award in Yagmar's hands, heavy and gleaming. The applause that came from colleagues who had seen her push past her limits, and the rare, piercing honesty in a man who could not pretend in the one moment everyone expected him to. What happened at that ceremony did more than just light up the blogs and feeds. It offered a brief, unscripted look at two people who have been turned into characters by the public gaze, reminding us that they bleed the same way anyone does when the past walks back into the room. The gowns, the gold signage, and the cameras built a perfect stage, but the most powerful scene of the night wasn't written by a screenwriter. It simply arrived and refused to be smoothed over. You didn't have to be a fan to recognize it, you only had to have lived long enough to know that winning and losing can arrive in the same breath, that joy can sit beside sorrow without either one apologizing for its presence. So where does this leave them? On separate paths that still seem to run dangerously near each other, at least for now. She steps into a new chapter with the city watching, award in hand, a career soaring, telling a story with every role she takes. He returns to the quiet, or tries to, piecing together what to do with a tenderness that didn't vanish just because the calendar turned. Maybe they never speak again. Maybe they meet for coffee in a place that used to be theirs and talk like people who remember the same streets. Maybe they try again with clearer eyes. Or maybe they finally close the book, each grateful for the chapters they shared even as they write separate endings. This brings us to the end of tonight's deep dive into the hearts of our favorite stars. Now, the conversation turns to you. Was Boris's visible crack on that wall a sign of a love that keeps its vow even in silence, or was it the final surge of a heart exhausted from holding back? Do you believe that time and grace could guide them toward one another again, or is the kindest thing a clean goodbye? We want to hear your theories, your hopes, and your analysis in the comments. And please, do not forget to support News Around by hitting the like button, subscribing, and joining our membership program via the join button for exclusive access. Until the next story breaks, keep watching and keep feeling.